Welcome to Tabernacle Talk. Tabernacle Talk is a Bible study podcast from Tabernacle Baptist Church in Essex, Maryland. We hope that this podcast will help you to know Christ, grow in His Word, and show His love to others. Let's dive right in. Well, welcome back to another episode of Tabernacle Talk. We are in Psalm 80 today, journeying through Book 3 of Psalms. We have, if I remember correctly, we've got 9 more Psalms left in Book 3, and then we'll be looking at our next study together. I'm excited for today. Today is Psalm 80, and this is another one of those Psalms, like a lot of the ones that we've been looking at, that post the destruction of Jerusalem, or within that time period, as people were looking back, even taking some things that had been passed down for hundreds of years from the time of David and Asaph, who was a writer there. And as people were thinking about those songs that had been written hundreds of years prior and making, if you will, adjustments to their own day and age to say, God, I know what you did for Israel back then. I know how you prospered them. I know how you won victories. And right now we are just in a different place as a nation, but we know that though our circumstances are different, you're the same God. And so we're calling out to you, even echoing truths that have been around for hundreds of years. And I know for many people, I'll just make this one quick aside. I know I've joked a few times about, perhaps like Chris Tomlin or Phil Wickham or someone like that, kind of redoing an old hymn. But there is a huge benefit to that. For those of you that are here at Tabernacle, you know that I love doing songs that combine both old truths and old words that we've known since childhood. For me, obviously, that's, 10, 15 years is back in my childhood. But for some in our church, it's, 60, 70 years that they have known these truths. And I love songs that both remind us of how good God has been all of our lives, how good and faithful He's been to His people and to our church, and even, going back in our family history, while as well reminding us that God's not stuck in the past, but He is, every single morning He is with us. His mercies are new every day. He is the one who was and is to come. He's Jesus Christ, the same yesterday, today, and forever. And so I want to encourage you. Sometimes we can get in a rut musically, and we can just always listen to or always sing the same stuff that we've always sung. And that's why I love songs like Amazing Grace, My Chains Are Gone, or Come Thou Fount, Come Thou King, or Jesus Firm Foundation, or different hymn formatted things like that, where it has a bit of familiarity, so I can sing it with passion. I can remember everything that God's done for me in my life as I sing those songs, while also it reminds me that there is even more that God is doing. And as God works in the hearts of Christians today that write songs, or that write new choruses, or that write new melodies to things like, Glorious Day, Living He Loved Me, or Blessed Redeemer, or some of those, that we are able to take such encouragement to say, okay, God, thank you that you've been good to me. Thank you that you've been faithful. May you help me to continue walking with you and to look for what you are doing now. Because you you didn't do all of your works way back when. You want to work through my life and through my church and through my relationships. And so would you help me in that way? So all of that's just a prequel here to Psalm 80. The inscription for this psalm reads this: for the choir director, according to the lilies. And here this would likely be the name of a tune, that it would say, okay, here's the melody that you sing for this poem. It says, a testimony of Asaph, a psalm. He says, listen, shepherd of Israel, who leads Joseph like a flock. You who sit enthroned on the cherubim, rise up before Ephraim, Benjamin, and Manasseh. Rally your power and come to save us. Restore us, God. Look on us with favor, and we will be saved. Okay, so right off the bat, some beautiful imagery. He talks about the Lord as the shepherd of Israel. And we can think even back to the most famous psalm, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not be in want." And he says that he leads Joseph like a flock. Now, as you would remember, if you've been around, certainly this podcast for a little bit, but if you've read through the Old Testament before, you know that there's not a tribe of Joseph necessarily, but that Joseph's two sons both had their own tribes, Ephraim and Manasseh. And half of Manasseh was on the western side of the Jordan, and half was on the eastern side of the Jordan. And so he says there in verse number 2, God is rising up, he is coming, he is leading, he is shepherding before Ephraim, Benjamin, and Manasseh. So these would be the descendants of Jacob's favorite wife, Rachel, that she would have Joseph and Benjamin, and obviously Joseph's two sons that she never got to meet, Ephraim and Manasseh. So here there is like a tenderness that says, God, remember these people that were so beloved, that were treated ill, that went through incredibly difficult, hard circumstances. Everything that Joseph went through, Ephraim, Manasseh didn't even know their family for years until they came down to Egypt. And I think that was highlighted in the, I can't remember if we went through that on this podcast. I know I've mentioned it at some point. But everything that Joseph went through, everything that his family went through, Benjamin, his mother died in childbirth. And so he grew up without his mother and as kind of the youngest. And I can only think if there was that jealousy that the brothers held towards Joseph, how much more jealousy might there have been towards Benjamin, who's, the baby boy, and with all of the love that was lavished onto Joseph, once Joseph was gone, then there was okay, well, only Benjamin, this is the last, if you will, remembrance of Rachel that Jacob had. And so he also would not have had a super easy life. So, but that's not necessarily here nor there, other than the writer here, Asaph, is calling to mind, God, remember your loved ones, the cherished ones, the ones that have gone through so much. He says, you who sit enthroned on the cherubim, rise up. So don't think of the cherubim as the chubby babies. Get that out of your head. The cherubim are the, if you will, throne room, quote unquote, guardians. That is those that are in the throne room that God has doing specific tasks. And one of the things that's mentioned throughout the Psalms and some other areas of Scripture is God is, if you will, riding on them, that they are kind of carrying his throne. These would be the amalgamations of the strength of an ox and the mane of a lion and the wings of an eagle and the face and hair of a woman, like those types of things. That kind of best of all possible creation, like the super creation that God has made. These are the ones that God isn't he isn't subservient to any other spiritual being. He is the one that is the ultimate, and he reigns over the cherubim, the seraphim. He presides over the angels. He even rules the demons and tells them what they can and cannot do. And I'm thankful for a God that is amazing. And so here Asaph's reflecting on that God, the God who literally has angels carrying him, not because he has to have it, but because that's a place of authority and greatness that highlights just his magnificence. So he tells him, God, this is who you are. I want you to rise up. I want you to restore us, God, to look on us with favor, and we will be saved. Okay, we find out here Israel is in a place where they are in need of the rescue of God, that it is almost as though, bless you, and by you I mean me, Israel is in a place where they need the favor and the restoration of God because they have fallen down. They are in need. Verse number 4, he begins to talk about what the circumstances are that Israel is in. He says, Yahweh, God of heaven's armies, how long will you be angry with your people's prayers? You fed them the bread of tears and gave them a full measure of tears to drink. You make us quarrel with our neighbors. Our enemies make fun of us. Restore us, God of heaven's armies. Look on us with favor, and we will be saved. Man, here as we look at these sections, we can think back to Judges and to so many times, even on this podcast, we did some legacy episodes through First Kings and saw how Israel consistently wandered away from God, and not just wandered away from God, like directly rejected the light of God's revelation and covenant that he had given them. And as a result, they were constantly having to fight with these other nations where if they had followed the Lord, they would have experienced the peace and victory and joy that they experienced during the life of Solomon, a peace that was won in large part through some of David's work and how he continued to forward the work of God's kingdom within Israel, within Judah, certainly in a flawed way, certainly with many failures, but his goal was, we want to be the people of God. We want to worship him. We want to exalt him. We want to sing about him. And so all of that happens. So we remember all of those things of, I remember there are times when Israel's fighting against Edom, they're fighting against Moab, they're fighting against Syria, they're fighting against Egypt, they're fighting against Assyria, they're fighting against Babylon. Yeah, it really does seem like they're not really experiencing a lot of peace, and they're going through hard times where there's droughts and famine, and you can think of when Assyria came and there were sieges and people were incredibly hungry and thirsty. You can think of when the northern kingdom of Israel was surrounded by a force. I believe that one was from Syria, and there was such incredible lack of food in that place that they were even selling pigeon droppings as food, and it was expensive food. And so in those moments, the question, I love what Asaph says here. He has a call out to God that he says, look at all of these terrible things that are happening. Whereas we looking back go, well, yeah, God told you exactly what would happen if you rejected him and his way and you went your own way, and yet that's the direction that you guys chose to go. And so he'd say, well, you guys kind of signed up for this, but Asaph says, God, I believe in your mercy. I believe in your forgiveness. And so God, yes, we have brought this on ourselves, but I also want you to remember not just who we are. I want you to remember who you are and what you have done. And so I love that aspect of it. Verse number 4, where he says, Yahweh, God of heaven's armies, how long will you be angry with your people's prayers? Man, that made me just think in my own life, God, when I come to you, am I coming to you just because my circumstances are bad and I have no desire to actually walk with you and know you and love you? Or am I consistently coming to you in every season? Is my heart genuinely to know you and worship you and follow you and lead others to know you? Because that's not a prayer that God will get angry with. If you're just trying to use God to get a set of circumstances that you want, well, certainly that is a prayer that God can be angry with. But then in verses 8 through 19, Asaph draws God's attention to, if you will, Asaph draws God's attention to, here is who you are and what you have done with the people of Israel and in this place. I want to remind you of your works, and because of who you are and because of what you have done, that is why I am asking you to help Israel, to restore us and to save us. Verse number 8, you uprooted the vine from Egypt. You drove out the nations and planted it. That is, drove out all of the Canaanites, Perizzites, Hittites, etc., and planted Israel. took it from Egypt, planted it in that land of Canaan. He says, you cleared a place for it. It took root and filled the land. The mountains were covered by its shade, and the mighty cedars with its branches. It sent out sprouts toward the sea, that would be the Mediterranean, and shoots toward the river, that would be the Euphrates. Verse number 12, why have you broken down its walls so that all who pass by pick its fruit? You would have, gates, fences, stone walls built up so that when you had a garden, it wasn't just that anyone and anything, any animal, any bystander could take from your fruit. And he says, God, you've broken it down so that what we are doing is being enjoyed by other people, if you will. We make the crops and Edom comes in and takes our crops. You have, the Canaanites that are in the land that would at times come and steal all of the food or steal whatever type of resources. And he says, God, this is what is happening to us. He says, the boar from the forest tears it, and the creatures of the field feed on it. Return, God of heaven's armies. Look down from heaven and see. Take care of this vine. The root your right hand is planted, the shoot that you made strong for yourself. He says, God, this is more than just about our failures. This is about your honor, because you are the one that put us here. You are the one that called us by your name. You are the one that gave us your law. And so he says, God, I know we messed up. He says, but God, would you come and save us nevertheless? Verse number 16, it was cut down and burned up. They perish at the rebuke of your countenance. He says, God, you responded to our evil, to our wickedness, and so now we're shriveled up. Verse number 17, he says, let your hand be with the man at your right hand. With the Son of Man, you have made strong for yourself. And certainly there, as he's talking about Israel, and he's saying, God, care for your people, care for your rulers. There would certainly be a messianic application as well that would talk about Jesus. And Jesus is that one that is at the right hand of God. And so we could even think about Stephen's prayer when he was being stoned as a result of his faith by the Sanhedrin, where he says that he sees the Son of Man standing at the right hand of the Father. Then verse number 18, then we will not turn away from you. Revive us, bring us back to life, and we will call on your name. Restore us, Yahweh, the God of hosts. Look on us with favor, and we will be saved. I'm so thankful that just as Asaph prayed here, so we can find forgiveness and redemption and revival and everything that we need through Jesus. That though we haven't earned it, just as Israel had not earned it in this psalm, we can experience God's forgiveness not because of how great we are, but because of the promises and person and character and love of God. That we can know peace, we can know forgiveness, we can know community, we can know that we have a home in heaven. There are so many wonderful things that we are guaranteed not through our greatness, but through the greatness of Jesus Christ. Will you today call out to him with a pure heart, with prayers that would not make God angry, that is not just trying to get things from him, not just trying to have him adjust all of your circumstances, but in truly knowing and loving and following him. As we do that, as we call out for revival, as we call out for restoration, as we call out for salvation, we know that we have it because we have a faithful, amazing God who has worked in the past and will continue to work into our future. Hope that today would be an encouragement for you. Tomorrow we are in Psalm 81. The next couple of Psalms are incredible, and I'm really looking forward to traveling through them with you. Thanks. Have a wonderful day.